All right, welcome back, guys. We are at round 7 of an exciting day here at the Charlotte Pokemon Regional Championships 2018. I've got myself, Michael Canavas, and Connor Fenton over here. It's going to be an exciting round because we've got two players, some familiar faces again. We've got Bob Zhang and Eddie North. Tell us a little bit about some of what they're playing. Let's go into Eddie's deck here, Connor.
Eddie's deck is probably the most interesting thing we've put on stream all day. It is a Zoroark, Duskmane Necrozma, Magnezone deck. So he's playing cards like Mallow and stuff to get out that Magnezone consistently, and he's just going to go and do big damage with that Duskmane Necrozma, as well as just having Zoroark GX for kind of consistency's sake. Other than that, it looks like kind of about how you would expect a deck like that to look. You know, there's the only weird thing I might say was there's only one double colorless energy to attack with Zoroark. I would expect a couple more because it is pretty Zoroark focused. It is a 4/4 Zoroark.
It's a 4/4 Zoroark with 3 Evo Sodas and no Magneton.
Yeah.
So, like, they really want their Zoroarks out, but he said, 1 DC is fine.
Yeah. He's also playing 2 Mount Coronet. You might think maybe a little bit more. Cool thing we were talking about before the game is, like, early game, you can Mount Coronet for your metals and then trade them with Zoroark, almost kind of like Execute and Expanded. On the other side, we have Bob Zhang playing a decently standard Golisopod Zoroark deck. There's a few kind of cute things in here. There's a Sudowoodo and a Counter Energy. That could come and play maybe in this matchup because it is a Zoroark deck.
Actually, could be huge in this matchup.
Yeah.
You can Duskmane Necrozma come in, use a big attack.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
you just can watch and learn and copy Duskmane Necrozma, take a return knockout. That Sudowoodo is actually going to be a major turning point, I feel like, in this matchup.
And the cool thing about that is, of course, like we were talking about Mallow on the other side, grab Rare Candy Magnezone. On this side, you can go grab Sudowoodo Counter Energy, trade, and he has his Sudowoodo attacking and taking the knockout back in that Duskmane Necrozma. I bet you that's something that I'm going to say within this next round.
I'd say it's a pretty likely scenario. You know, we also see he's got all those tech cards when you're playing the Puzzle of Time. He's got 1 Acerola. He's got 1 Parallel City. He's got just 1 Floatstone. He's actually even got a Palpad in there.
Yeah.
So he wants to be able to throw back whatever supporters he wants. His copies of Cynthia's, Guzma's. So overall, pretty consistent matchup. So, but what's going to be even a little bit more exciting is going to get right into this match. We want to get to see this metal deck in action. So we're going to go over to the game here between Eddie and Bob, see who's actually going to be starting out here. Let's see. So it looks like Eddie is going to be the opener. You go for the handshake. Eddie flips it over with Bob, and we see actually a Coco start for Bob Zhang, probably the best starter in the entire deck. And then we see a Magnemite and a Zorua instantly come down for Eddie. Not sure if he has that turn 1 Bridget, but we are at least going to see him check his deck for the first time with the Professor's Letter to put 2 Metal Energies into his hand.
Yeah, so interesting to note, he's going to check it. He didn't end up checking his prizes, but he has both of his Mount Coronets are in the prize cards, as well as a Mew EX that's going to be pretty inconsequential. But then on the other side, we see Bob prize his Sudowoodo and his Counter Energy.
Well, the good thing is that they're next to each other, so he'll grab them together,
Yeah,
I guess.
so if there's a knockout taken that takes both of those cards, and he gets them, the thing is, it's 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Assuming he takes them from the bottom. And at that point, he's down to 2 prize cards. He's probably not behind if he's down to 2 prize cards.
Nope.
So the Counter Energy probably isn't doing anything.
This is going to be a rough game for Bob. It's not only is it a Sudowoodo Counter Energy, prize the Grass Energy, prize the Wimpod. He only plays 3 Grass Energy, and he prized that Palpad.
Yeah. And it is the last prize, or it's the last prize, second to last prize, one of the two. Another thing to note is that Eddie's Mount Coronet is at the bottom of his prize card, so he probably will grab it pretty early on in the games after he takes his first knockout, so that shouldn't be too major.
Both players not really having much on their first turns. Both of them actually just opting for a Cynthia. We see 1 Zoro hit the board for Eddie. Let's see if Bob could do a little bit better. You want to get as many Zoros down as possible. I mean, 3 would be ideal here for Bob. I don't really expect him to draw 3 Zoros off 6 cards, but definitely hoping to get a little bit more Zoro action than Eddie is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's just trying to get some sort of setup going. It looks like he hits a Wimpod. There's the Bridget he would have liked before, and a Zoro. That's not too bad. You can't really complain about that off of that many cards.
I think I see an Ultra Ball as well. So if he wanted to, he can get double Zoro down, but I don't think he has any supporters or anything like that, so probably he's not going to really want to play that Ultra Ball for just a Zoro this turn.
He just goes for the Flying Flip.
And he's starting off this turn with a Metal Energy onto his Magnemite, signifying he's probably going to want to try to get that out of the active position. No.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the good thing is, I mean, Zoroark already has a Metal Energy on the bench, which since he's not playing DCs, it's going to be pretty easy to be able to attack with Zoroark once he's ready.
There is a chance that Eddie ends up using the first attack on the Magnemite as well. It's I believe it's called Metal Sound. It confuses the active. Confusion's always good, just to stop him from being able to use that flying flip attack over and over again.
I actually think that well, we're going to see in just a moment exactly what that Magnemite does, but we're seeing the first trade come down for Zoroark. That's what I thought.
I'm incorrect.
I was pretty sure it was something like searching energy cards, but I don't want to say it just yet. So it actually lets him just stack his hand with a bunch of energy, and we see a Rare Candy Magnezone on something that wasn't okay. So he actually has to play the Rare Candy Magnezone whether he wanted to or not once it hit the discard pile, because he did play the card, so even if he said, oh, wait, I wouldn't have evolved the active one if I had remembered, well, it's kind of up to his opponent if he wants to allow him to Spirit of the Game to be able to take that play back.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's just definitely not what Eddie wanted there, to just go straight into a Magnezone.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the good thing is Magnezone does only have 2 retreat as opposed to some of the bulkier ones before he had 3 or even 4 sometimes. So it's not going to be that hard to get out of the active position. Unfortunately, he won't be able to abuse the Mount Coronet right afterwards to just get the energies off that he discarded. But we do see the first Zoroark come down for Bob as well, a second Zorua. So both players already having used 1 trade each this game, but Bob getting down that crucial Parallel City.
Yeah, that's definitely going to hurt Eddie. He can't bench another Zorua, can't get down a Duskmane Necrozma if he wants to start swinging for big damage. And as we saw, Eddie prized both of his Stadium cards this game. So he's going to have to rely on Field Blower, which luckily he does play 3 copies of. So he should be able to hit it, but it still isn't ideal.
And when a deck is packed with abilities like this one here, not just the Zoroarks, but the Magnezone as well, being so crucial, you really kind of have to put as many Field Blowers as 3 or more into your deck. Otherwise, you're going to be really just crumbling to a Garbotoxin. And I don't really think it was a matchup that people wanted to have on the negative side coming into this. But Eddie going forward after just getting another flying flip out of Bob, his second Zoroark does hit the board here as well. So pretty good opening there overall. I mean, you want to get those Zoroarks in play as fast as you can, and Eddie's making that pretty easy here.
He does have the Guzma, so he can get out of the active, but he doesn't seem to have another energy card.
I can't see what all those hyper rares are in his hand. They might be Duskmanes, they might be other Zoroarks. I really can't tell.
I believe one is a Duskmane, and I think one's a Zoroark. But yeah, it's hard to tell with all these cards. They look kind of the same in the hand.
It's a Tapu Lele.
It's a Lele, yeah.
We are going to see this Guzma come down. It's going to promote the other Magnemite. I think he's just kind of trying to drag that Wimpod up to stall for return here. He doesn't really care if this Magnemite gets knocked out. And this Coco, though, has really been putting in a lot of work. Being able to put those 2 spreads down. Zoroark's already got 40 damage on it, putting it over to 170. One more flying flip, and you actually can just put into a range where Eddie's going to have to want to play something like Acerola, but he actually doesn't play any Acerola or Max Potion. So once that damage hits the board, if it's got to 40 on there, it's going to be in range of a one-shot from an opposing Zoroark or Golisopod.
And that's exactly what Bob's looking to do with it. That's the whole point of the card in the deck, is to set it for easier knockouts with your Zoroarks and your Golisopods. So it's definitely very strong for Bob here. We do see a Guzma. We're probably gonna bring up, you're gonna bring up that Magnezone and just flying flip again.
He didn't hit the grass energy there, so he's not able to actually take the knockout on the Magnezone. But being able to flying flip again, he's actually putting a lot of pressure, because if that Magnemite doesn't evolve, flying flip is gonna get another prize card, put a second Zoroark up to that 60 damage mark, which is pretty important. And he's actually gonna be putting Eddie in kind of a really awkward position.
Speaking of an awkward position, he has to go grab these double puzzle already in the game. It's a little early. He still has to do it because of where his hand's at in the game, but it's definitely not what he's looking to do.
I think looks like he's going to grab the Professor's Letter and the Cynthia. Professor's Letter being important here, he does still have the Magnezone in play, so he can get both energies down from it, which means he can definitely attack with his Zoroark this turn if he wants. Just by retreating and attaching the other one over to Zoroark. Magnezone's ability allows you to attach as many Metal Energy cards as you like from your hand to your Pokemon per turn. So it overrides that rule that would naturally only allow you to attach 1 basic energy per turn.
Yeah. So yeah, we see exactly what, well, maybe not. He's debating. He's like, where do I want to put this energy? He's got a Cynthia in hand, but he knows that this Zoroark can get knocked out if he doesn't hit. If he attacks with it, can't get knocked out, and also if he doesn't hit the Field Blower in 2 Pokemon, he's not taking a knockout this turn.
Right, so I think he was even considering maybe going in with that Magnezone. I mean, it does 150 damage if you swing with it, but he would have needed another energy, which he did hit. We do still see he has 1 trade left, I believe, so he's got to look for either a second energy or there's... I don't believe he's going to have any way to take a knockout with that hand. Oh, that's the second trade, sorry.
I think that might have been the Field Blower, a secret rare Field Blower that he got.
I think you're right. Yep. So that's going to knock out that Parallel City. It's going to free up the bench space again for Eddie. He does definitely have the 2 bench Pokemon. I see a Magnemite. I see a Tapu Lele, I believe, in his hand as well. Got a couple of different options of what he wants to use, so he should be able to get those the full bench in play for Zhang to be able to come out.
So what he can do here is he can attack with that other Magnezone. He does have the 2 metals in hand. And if he does that, well, he decides not to, but he could have avoided the potential knockout if he'd attacked with the one on the bench.
I kind of like that. I mean, I don't think he really needs the Magnezone out in play right now. I mean, you're going to want Dustmane eventually, so I guess you do have to make sure you're prepped for the future. Getting that other Zorua down, though, is really nice. So that way, if this Yorick does end up getting knocked out, you have a pretty easy response there. We do see that, unfortunate for Eddie, he doesn't grab that Mount Coronet, and I mean, that's going to be something he wants to find fast. He doesn't have any other way of putting energy back from his discard pile into his deck besides the Puzzle of Time, so he's already gone through, I think it's about 6 energy or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's at least 4 or 5.
I believe it's 6, but I'm not 100%.
And that would only leave him with 3 left, which is enough to use Dustmane's GX attack.
Yeah.
He still has to retreat or find a way to switch, and if you look at his deck...
And he needs to be down on prizes. Remember, Dustmane GX's attack, the GX attack specifically, you have to be down on prizes in order to do the 250. He can do 3 metals and that 1 last double colorless if there's 6 metals in his discard pile to be able to use a 230 attack, but outside of that, yep, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, Bob's going back for that parallel. That's really strong, especially in any Zoroark mirror match, just to put your opponent back down to 3. Now Eddie has Eddie has an interesting decision here on which Pokemon to take.
By discarding those Magnemites, again, Eddie doesn't play any Rescue Stretcher, he doesn't play cards to bring things out of the discard pile besides Puzzle of Time, so he's kind of signaling over to Bob and says, hey, you want to take out this Magnezone? Come over here. You're going to be in a really good position if you do it, because I don't have any Magnemite left. He's actually got 2 rare candies in addition. I think he's actually got all 3 rare candies in the discard pile as well. So I believe he traded both of the extra 2.
There's 1 in his hand right now.
Okay, so he's got 1 in discard, or 2 in discard pile, 1 in hand, so he's really low on resources being able to get another Magnezone. He would have to Puzzle of Time, which, again, is impossible because he's used 2 1s in his prize. So if that Magnezone goes down, he's not getting another one out this game.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like Eddie's in a more difficult position than you would assume just by looking right now at the board state. He's got a lot of resources gone, and it's still pretty early in the game. Bob has a lot more left, a lot more options going forward in this game.
Both players have each used this 1 set of Puzzle of Time, and both players have a Puzzle of Time in their prize cards, and one of their last 2. So it's going to be a really weird finish to this game. Bob's even got his PAL pad in the prizes to reuse his Acerola or Guzma and things like that. Like, there's going to be some very, very tight decision making that we're going to have to see from these players on interesting and intuitive ways, I feel like, to be able to take some of the knockouts.
And then we see Bob did not hit the DCE off his supporter card for turning. He does not hit it off either trade either. So he just has to sit there and pass.
That actually could give Eddie one of the big openings he was kind of looking for to make sure he stays in this game. He needs to be able to take out some prize cards to be able to get this Mount Coronet out of there.
Yeah, he needs to get the Mount Coronet out to get rid of the parallel. He has no real way to do too much this turn other than maybe just a 2-shotting this active with Zoroarks.
I actually think that if this Zoroark gets knocked out before the Mount Coronet comes into play, that might just actually spell the game out for Eddie.
Eddie has 2 metals in hand.
Those are 2, I think, of his last 3.
Yeah. So but if he can take a 2-shot, then he can get the Coronet back.
But it's going to be a long road to get there, and I think that's that 3rd rare candy. So again, it's weird. Do you go after the Magnezone? Well, I think at this point, if Duskmane gets 2 energies on it, you don't worry about the Magnezone anymore. But this is where things are really going to start getting tricky for Bob. You don't have a good answer to Duskmane Necrozma. When that thing comes into play, the only thing you can really do with the way that his deck is set up is to be able to have that Sudowoodo counter energy play, which, as we said, is not available to him.
But I think if Bob goes and takes this Magnezone right now, it forces Eddie to only be able to use the Solgaleo when he is losing to take that first knockout. And then he can swing again. So maybe if you can like swing into the Solgaleo twice, something like that, Guzma it up. But like you said earlier, Bob already used 2 of his Guzma, his puzzles. So Guzma isn't gonna happen every turn from either side.
Nope. Now we do see that DC in Eddie's hand, and because he has that 1 metal price, I actually think that might be the last energy that he has in his entire deck. And if it's not his last, he's got, I think, 1 more.
I think that might be what part of what Bob's looking at, thinking, okay, maybe I can just like win this war of attrition here and get rid of all the energies from Eddie's side on the board.
Yeah, there were four metal energy in the discard pile. 4 on board, 1 in prize.
Well,
I'm sorry. I guess there weren't 4. I guess there was 3. So there's literally 1 metal and 1 DCE in Eddie's deck that he can use to attack with until he gets that Mount Coronet out of his prize cards.
If Eddie can start streaming these Solgaleos, he's in a pretty good spot if he can start like really going for attacks over and over again. But it's going to be difficult, especially with the resources that he has left in this game.
We do see the second Duskmane come down for Eddie. Eddie contemplating how to go about the rest of this turn. He's not down on prizes, so he can't use the Duskmane this turn to be able to, with the hand and everything that he has, he would have to find that other metal energy. Bob obviously doesn't know exactly how many energies Eddie is playing, so it's going to be a lot harder for Bob to make these plays playing around him without that kind of information just yet.
And we see the max potion from Bob. That could be pretty big here.
It was actually it was really, really well timed. What's the best time to use a max potion but with a Pokemon that has a lot of damage and no energy on it?
That does open up Eddie to be able to use that 250 attack, the GX attack on the Solgaleo, or the Duskmane Necrozma, and he'll probably get his Coronet out of those prize cards too. And then next turn, there's no way for that Duskmane Necrozma to get knocked out immediately afterwards. And he can take another 2 prizes right away.
He's discard 3 energy, so he can discard the double colorless energy and 1 metal. So he's definitely got ways of being able to pull that off fairly easily. Now, when that Mount Coronet comes into play for Eddie, if Bob can discard it immediately with a Field Blower or something like that, and really limit the use of Eddie, it's going to make a big difference. But here we do see Bob playing down the Mallow, a card that we've been seeing all day to be able to set up these trade-in abilities. So Bob putting the 2 cards on top of the deck, he's going to draw them immediately because of this trade here. He's going to be able to set up whatever he wants to be able to go through.
I'm assuming we're going to see DC Choice Band for the knockout here?
That's exactly what he put, yes. There's the DC, there's the Choice Band. He does attach it there. He does have enough Pokemon, so he's doing the 150. Because of that Coco damage that was there, he is able to knock out that Zoroark GX. And there's that metal that was pretty well timed there on Eddie's side. He is down on prizes, though, so he doesn't actually need to use anything but the GX attack here.
Yeah, that's absolutely what he will be doing here. I'm not even going to say should be. Yeah, he just immediately goes for it, and I believe we're going to see, we see the Mount Coronet come into his hand. That's the card that Eddie's been searching for all game.
250 damage. There is no Pokemon that is currently legal that could actually just survive that attack.
Not without any sort of like boosts or buffs.
That is one powerful wallop. You don't need to count for that one. If your opponent announces that attack as a GX, your Pokemon is going into the discard pile.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's interesting here is that we're probably going to see another attack next turn. Eddie can go and take those 2 metals out of his discard pile with that Coronet, try to power up another Necrozma, or another Duskmane Necrozma. And he's got the DCE in hand too, so he's got energies.
Duskmane only has 3 retreats, so he can just retreat into the other one, go back to the other one, from one into the next. Eddie's got to know he's got the other coronet in his prize, of course, and the puzzle of time. There's literally 2 out of 3 cards, so you're guaranteed to grab one of them if you're taking 2 prizes. So I would actually feel extremely comfortable to be able to prevent the knockouts. I'm fine discarding these energies, getting into the other one. But of course, that end does come down from Bob, making it harder for Eddie to be able to pull off these plays. He's going to have to find those cards again. Bob not finding a whole lot. He does go for a trade, though, and that trade immediately to double puzzle. I will notice something. Bob's taking his prizes then from the top up, so he got that puzzle.
Yeah, I was about to mention that he took his prizes from the top up, and that's something that most players kind of have a habit of how they take their prize cards, and they'll do it the same way every way. If we follow Eddie's pattern, next 2 prizes, he's going to grab Metal and Coronet if he grabs them the same way he has been. So we're probably going to see Metal Coronet come if Eddie's able to take a knockout this turn.
Right. Bob contemplating these puzzles here. He knows that if he uses them, there's something about playing those last 2 puzzle of time that changes the atmosphere for your opponent. When you're still in the deck, you know that at any moment, their entire discard pile is just this giant toolbox of resources that they can make almost countless plays out of. But as soon as those last 2 puzzle of time are gone, you know that's not an option anymore. So it becomes a much more limited game. It's more predictable for what your opponent's going to be able to do. Bob says, I'm not willing to give up that power just yet, and just does 100 damage over to Eddie before passing it.
I think I agree with that. I don't really know what else he could really want at this moment. It does look like Eddie did go into... Ooh, that's pretty much everything he could have wanted right there.
He's got the stadium, he's got an energy, whether it be the double colors or whatever, it doesn't matter. He's got a field blower if he wants it. Can't do anything with it, actually. Literally no tool.
He can trade it.
Play. You know? Yeah, he can trade it. He has no trades left, but he could next turn. He could blow his old Mount Coronet if he really wants, but I don't see that coming.
He can do it, double puzzle for it back, right?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, if that Mount Coronet stays in play next year, he's got 2. You can use Mount Coronet, Field Blower, and play another one in play. You just can only play 1 stadium card per turn, but you can use the effect more than once if it's 2 separate stadium cards. So, kind of these cute little plays that can kind of come out of Eddie throughout. If he needs 4 energies, that's one way that he can do it to get them all out of his discard pile at once. I don't really think it'll come into play here, but here comes Duskmane Necrozma. 230 damage this time. A couple Pokemon might need some math done, more in particular Wailord, but anything else, if you're not a Wailord, you're going to the discard pile.
Yeah. We do see Eddie did take the Coronet Metal, which is important because he needs those cards. That one puzzle is dead because he's already used all of his puzzles. Yep. There's 3 in the discard. Now Bob, what's Bob's win condition here? It has to involve knocking out that Magnezone, right?
I mean, either knocking out. If you could just knock out this Duskmane here and play an Ed at the same time, and knock out the Mount Coronet at the same time with Field Blower.
The issue with you'd
have to do yeah, but I don't think knocking out the Magnezone is going to do it because you take 1 prize. I think it's just you're prolonging the inevitable by knocking out the Magnezone. And he's actually going to put him in an interesting position with this parallel because he's either going to have to discard one of his Zoroarks or discard the Magnezone, which, like we just talked about, he can't do that. If he discards the Magnezone, Duskmane cannot get powered up to the 4 energy in 1 turn. So we're going to have to see a Zoroark go down. He's going to be off 1 trade that he's going to have to get this.
Yeah, I do like that a lot, actually. He's going to put him down to 3, take the knockout on this active. I know. He's going to take the Magnezone. So what happens here, though, I guess there's no way to knock out the Duskmane. So if he can attach twice to Duskmane, and we know that he has Coronet in hand.
Yeah, he did have the end. I mean, you know, we could have gone a lot of different routes. You could have. I agree there. If you knock out the Duskmane, then the following turn, what do you do for your last 2 prizes anyways? So might as well take the Magnezone out, take the engine out. So say, hey, whoever you attach this 3rd energy to, I'm coming for it.
Now, I believe that Duskmane Necrozma does have 190 HP.
It does, yes.
So it's safe from a Crossing Code GX. Unless, does Bob play? He does not play Kukui. So yeah, nope. It is completely safe. Eddie just needs to draw into an energy next turn off of this potential N to win, because Bob still does not have counter energy Sudowoodo.
If he could have... No. I wouldn't want it.
If he would have taken his prizes from the middle.
Yes, if he had taken his prizes from the middle, he may have had a shot at this game. But unfortunately, I didn't really see that as being realistic. Now, you got to see, Bob's got to be a little bit nervous here. what do you really go for? So that third energy comes down, and he's at one prize. Even if he puts up a non-EX attacker, like outside of dragging something up to stall, is that his out?
So if he drags another thing up, Eddie can just attach to, if he say he sends a non-EX up, Eddie can attach to his bench Duskmane Necrozma and just do the attack that does 60 damage to the active.
Yep.
And then have two of these guys that only need one more energy to blow up anything. And say you can never attack with a GX this game, and then he just wins.
Yeah. I think that end is literally the only thing that he can do. And just hope that he hits null with his energy. But I think Bob just end into his whole deck.
He's got the Pal Pad. No, he can't end to his whole deck because he has 3 cards, 3 prizes.
I think he end and then
he traded the end, I think. I don't know, he's just scooping this game, yeah. He sees there's no real way for me to get out of this situation.
Yeah, I mean, he could have ended and hoped that his opponent just didn't hit any energy and he just has to knock out the Duskmane before it does anything. You know, you've got a tiny out, but it just wasn't really a likely scenario.
Now, the important things this game, hopefully for Bob's sake, he does not prize the Sudowoodo.
Or the counter energy.
Counter energy.
Or both, unlike last game. And if he does, he can take him first from the middle, maybe. But
it'd be interesting to see if he grabs from the middle next time and hopes to grab the Sudowoodo counter energy.
He knows now where it was hiding, so he's just like, I'm going to go for it again.
Sudowoodo found a spot it likes, and it's not going to move until you use the little sprinkling can to get it out of there.
Exactly. It's putting up its roadblock. Right now, that Sudowoodo really was a roadblock to Bob's victory. Now, Bob is going to get to choose to go first in this game. I'm assuming he's going to make that choice. Both players shuffling up and getting ready. Now, of course, besides the card just not being prized, you know, one thing that we're going to want to see, Bob's going to want to see different to be able to try to advance this game in his favor is kind of hitting some of his early energy. We saw him missing a double colorless energy twice in the beginning of that game, really making it costly for him. He could have taken advantage of Eddie's situation in stumbling with his resources, but he wasn't able to attack and advance his board state.
Yeah, just left Eddie completely, stuck. What is he going to do with no energy either? Eddie had an energy prize, and that double coronet was huge.
Right.
And of course, the parallelicities on Bob's side were super crucial in slowing Eddie down throughout the entire game. Mm-hmm. I expect we're going to see similar strategies with the parallels this game.
Yes. But it was actually interesting to see both players getting hurt as bad as they did by their prize cards. They were actually some of the worst prize cards I'd seen on both sides throughout the day, to be completely honest. You know, they were not something you want to see going in here. Bob does look like he's announced to go first. He's pointing towards himself there, signifying it. He is going to have a Zorua, it looks like, as his opener.
But if you looked at Bob's hand, it did not look good.
I don't think I saw anything live in that hand at all, actually.
Yeah, it was a Zorua. There's a puzzle. Both players forget about the prize cam.
So we've got a Magnezone, a Field Blower, one of his Duskmanes, and a Magnemite. Nothing crazy. One Magnezone is kind of obnoxious, but on Bob's side...
Mallow top deck?
On Bob's side, it's really just a double colorless energy, but nothing too crucial again. But we do know that double colorless and Guzma are going to be his last prizes this game, based on the pattern he's described to us the last one. Unless Bob decides to change everything up. But Bob is opening it here. His only option to play this Mallow. I'm going to go through the deck. You want to be able to put a Bridget or something on there, but I feel like you've got to be able to put some sort of draw combination, so...
He at least gets a Zoroark, so he can put the Zoroark on top of the deck to draw into whatever he wants. And it does look like he grabbed... Yeah, well, he's thinking about it. He knows I want Zoroark, but there's Bridget and N on the bottom of the deck. He's probably going to pick one of those two. Is what it's looking like.
It's just worth me to kind of go with both. The fact that he has a double colorless in hand makes me want to go for the Bridget because it sets up the bench to be able to do the extra damage and everything that you need for the Zoroark. And it's not like your hand's totally dead no matter what once you have even one trade ability in there. It may not be the most amount of cards that you'd like to be drawing, but you're at least in a position where you can move forward.
Yeah. Bob's probably kind of assuming, too, that the Zoroark's not going to get knocked out immediately. It takes a lot of cards from Eddie to get that turn 2 Magnezone, Meteor Impact, or Meteor Tempest from the Duskmane Necrozma.
Yeah, I feel like Eddie has probably not pulled that off too often, but, it's got to be a play every once in a while, and it's got to be dirty when that happens. Turn 2 Magnezone, turn 2 Meteor Tempest, and I mean, it's crazy because he did open with that Duskmane, so it's not like he would need much more than the energy in the Magnezone.
Yeah. He did top deck the Bridget, so he's going there. Unlike last game where neither player got the turn 1 Bridget, Eddie's like, okay, cool, we got this turn 1.
Yep, 50% at least.
50% turn 1, yeah.
Now, Bob, on the other hand, was not as fortunate, but he at least did get to put it on top with that Mallow, so he's going to be able to at least one.
He's not
just
in the
not
worst
necessarily
situation.
on the first turn, right? He's going to be able to put some damage. He's going to be able to get this double colorless in play. He can actually, if he really wants to be greedy after drawing these 2 cards, if he gets another Zorua, I could even see him just going for a Guzma on that Magnemite.
Well, he needs to get the bench full enough to be able to knock it out.
Yeah, that's probably pretty good to do. I don't think you want to attach that Magnemite for only 20. I think you're
Absolutely
right.
not.
But Bridget is coming down for Bob here. We're going to see the 3 basics. I feel like Coco is going to make another appearance. We've got to see at least one more Zorua. And then, of course, you want to at least have that one Wimpod. You've always want to have access to Gliscopod. You don't want to turn that off completely as an option for you really ever. Outside of that, I'm fairly certain, Dustmane Necrozma does resist Psychic, so I don't see Mewtwo Evolution ever really being a card to play in this scenario, so go with the conservative standard route.
He did grab the Sudowoodo, so he's going to show the Sudowoodo right now. And I wonder how that's going to affect Eddie's gameplay. He doesn't know at this point. I'm assuming that Bob plays that Sudowoodo.
Right. You see it there. He points out, oh, look at the fancy little guy you got there.
It's like, didn't expect that. Yeah.
And Bob knows, well, unfortunately, he likes to hide. He really likes to hide as this little tree in my prizes and doesn't like to come out.
A game 1 loss is the watering can.
Exactly, and now he's out. Now Zoroark does put 80 damage with the Riotous Beating. Eddie does get a Zoroark of his own, so both players having access to that trade ability. Double colorless energy on that Necrozma as well. And a Sycamore for Eddie going into a fresh hand of 7. Discarding a Puzzle of Time, not your favorite thing to put into your discard pile, but it is only 1, so he's going to still be able to get his full hand of 7. Evo Soda getting a second trade ability. Now, again, this is where I really, really like Eddie's deck. He plays 3 copies of Evo Soda and a 4/4 Zoroark. You can barely get more consistent than that. A 4th Evo Soda is about as consistent as you can get.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't even play a single copy of Magneton to use with that Evo Soda.
Let's see what the second trade gets. If it gets a rare candy, and it does not.
It's a rare candy. He was actually, I think, going to be able to pull off the Dustmane.
Oh, yeah, he has the
Mount
Coronet.
He's got Coronet and a Metal. Yeah. He actually would have been able to do it, but unfortunately, he does not see a rare candy, but fortunate for Bob. So this is one of those situations where a Magneton would be good, but instead he's just going to put down the second Magnemite, and we're probably just going to see 60 damage come off of this Dustmane this turn. Or a retreat.
One really good thing for Eddie that he can do is if he ever does use that GX attack against this active, the Sudowoodo can't copy the GX attack back if the knockout is taken on this active, because they'll be tied on prize cards. So kind of negating the Sudowoodo's effect.
In this scenario, yes. I mean, if you're using the Sudowoodo, you're down on prizes anyways because you have to use the counter energy. So if he's able to use the Sudowoodo and his opponent used a GX attack last turn, he's going to be able to use it. But like you said, in this kind of weird, just in early game scenarios, you could end up in a spot where it's not going to really work out and play the way you need to. If Bob was ahead on prizes and then Eddie decided to use it and tie it up by 2, it would have to be an odd prize count. Bob would have to be ahead by 1, and then Eddie would have to take the 2 prizes in order for him to copy the GX attack.
We see Bob top decks the second puzzle. I'm not sure how relevant that is right now. There's not a whole bunch of stuff in his discard pile.
Second trade puts down this Wimpod for him, and I will say, this is where I'm actually kind of intrigued by him promoting that Magnemite. I know you don't want your Dustmane to get knocked out, but this is what I was just mentioning here. This is going to allow Bob to take 1 prize card. Eddie now has the option, of course, afterwards to... This is interesting, because then Eddie afterwards would have the option to return the knockout with the Dustmane's GX attack, allowing Bob to use it. Mm-hmm. But he is deciding to go with the double knockout, with the 2 prize knockout here, and Eddie did prize that second Dustmane, so I don't think we're going to see a return here.
Yeah, not unless he hits the double puzzle, and like we said, he's already played 1. We might just get an attacking Zoroark this game.
There's probably going to be a lot of Zoroark action this game coming from Eddie, at least in the meantime, because until he gets that Magnezone and everything up and gets his puzzles, so he's going to need puzzles fast. And I don't know that Eddie's really going through and looking at his prize cards because he just sycamored away that second Magnezone with one of them being in his prize cards. He has no more in his deck. The only way he is going to be able to get out Magnezone is using 2 out of 3 of his puzzle of time.
Oh, he just got puzzle rare candy off of that, and he already had one puzzle in hand.
And he's got an Ultra Ball in hand. I have a feeling he doesn't know that.
Yeah, does he know what he has prized?
I believe he has an Ultra Ball in hand. I actually don't.
Because he does have everything in hand to go and pull off this knockout this turn if he plays his cards right.
Oh, he does have both puzzles. Yeah, you're right. I see the second puzzle. I didn't see both of them. Yeah. So there's the last trade. We see another puzzle, another rare candy coming into his hand.
And the unfortunate thing is if he does get this Duskmane Necrozma off, if he goes puzzle for Magnezone Duskmane, then what else is he... sorry, he's out of puzzles for the game because he's already discarded one with a Sycamore.
Right. So they wouldn't have any more options or anything to be able to recruit cards afterwards. Can he get it, though? Attach. He's got 2 energies in hand, I believe. So 1 and 1 plus a 2-mount card. Yes, he can. He can do it with the GX attack.
Yes.
So he has exactly enough energy to be able to pull this off if he wants to go for that route.
If he realizes that he prized both of those attackers.
I hope he does not grab an Ultra Ball here. Okay, good.
He's got that. He's got an Ultra Ball in hand, though. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Okay, so he recognizes, he knows that they're in the prizes. That's good. So he's made the conscious effort and everything there. We are going to see the rare candy Magnezone. Duskmane hits the bench. We can see an energy go on to that Zoroark for a second time because of the ability. And then because of the Moral Coronet, he's going to have enough energy to be able to pull off everything he needs.
Yeah. It was very, very good turn for Eddie to kind of like bring himself back into this game a little bit. He does have to use a lot of resources to get there, but he gets off, everything he really needed to do this turn.
Now, again, this is where I'm a little bit hesitant to have played that Guzma last turn for Bob. If he had just knocked out the Magnemite, he would just be able to return the knockout here with nothing but a counter energy on that Sudowoodo. But now, because he's taken 2 prizes and they're both tied, he doesn't have the ability to activate that counter energy now.
Yeah. Eddie is pretty much guaranteed to take another knockout next turn.
Just literally needs to attach an energy, and that's it. And we're going to see another 2 prizes come down from him, or 1 if it's just, a Tapu Koko or something like that, which I could very well see this Tapu Koko going for a flying flip here. Now, Bob doesn't have a trade, though, yet.
I do see that Eddie has at least 1 Guzma in hand. So he can go, if there is a GX put down onto the bench. But looking at Bob's board, maybe there won't be.
He does have those double puzzle in hand. We're seeing a lot of these puzzles come down early, so I mean, this might be what he has to do to get this Zoroark out of his discard pile to be able to be able to move.
He goes for Zoroark Malice, so he's a man of the mission here. He's gonna go find something, and he's gonna use his 2 cards out of his discard pile to go get 2 cards out of his deck.
So he knows exactly what he's going for here. Unfortunately, again, that counter energy is. Well, he grabbed the counter energy, so he's doing it. I'm assuming he's setting that up for the following turn. He wants to make sure that he has what he needs next turn to be able to take the knockout after the Necrozma does the bigger 230 damage, or excuse me, smaller but more energy 230 damage attack with a little bit less limitation. Now Bob is putting 2 cards on top. He's going to go for the trade here. Looks like he's going to go and discard this extra Bridget. Not really something that you really care for. Parallel City knocking out the Mount Coronet and taking that is an incredible. Yeah. When you can play a Parallel City and your opponent has to discard a Zoroark GX off the bench, you know you've done a pretty good job.
That's one of the issues with this deck here is that he has to go and he has to put that Magnezone on his bench. And he gets the Coronet right back. There's a Mallow too. I could also see, if you're Eddie, you probably want to take this Guzma knockout on that Zoroark this turn, if at all possible.
Since he doesn't even have another Zorua on the bench, so if he knocks out that Zoroark, Bob's not going to be able to trade the following turn. Yes, we do know that Bob is holding on to the counter energy to return the knockout, but without having the Zoroark on the bench as well, I don't really see him being, that being a gigantic threat or anything there.
And the Coronet's going to allow him to get those 2 energy back, attach him to one of these. Any of the Pokemon on his bench really is fine because they all have 2 retreat costs. Guzma retreat. He's got another energy in hand. He can take the knockout on this Zoroark. And then if Bob ever benches another GX Pokemon, we do see that. He has 2 of those guys too. So
that works.
Yeah, that also is great. So if Eddie's next 2 prize cards should include this Duskmane Necrozma as well, and we do see another Guzma in his hand. So depending on how many energy cards he's able to draw.
Or if Bob's able to get that Field Blower to be able to knock this out. Going to be a
Also
couple
an
different
end.
things that'll come through. So he only has to discard one of the energies here to retreat because of the fact that he was able to put down the Zurosa. It was pretty nice. And he's going to, I believe he has another metal in hand, so he can probably hold that until next turn for that Duskmane Necrozma. Now, what I would like to see, though, is he's got that Puzzle of Time in hand. Useless card at this point. Not something you really ever want to
just
see.
play it.
Yeah, just get it out of there.
We do see counter energy. We are going to see the counter
Didn't
energy.
take long.
Yeah. It took till game 2 because Sudowoodo just had to go and hide himself away. I have to assume that Bob's going to end here.
I would assume. But he's looking at that Cynthia, so I don't think he wants to only go to 4 cards. I think Bob knows he needs resources. So as much as he would like to end and put him down to just a small hand, I think, okay, that gave Bob the signal. He's like, oh, wait, that's 8 cards? That's too much. I think I'm going to have to do this.
Eddie's hand is very good. There's double metal, Coronet, Guzma, Necrozma in hand, so he has all the pieces he needs to win this game next turn. If Bob does not end him or play another Stadium card to get rid of that Mount Coronet.
Yep. At this point, I mean, Eddie's really favorable. We've got to see the end come down for him. Unfortunately for Bob, he does end up going with that Cynthia, so he's going to leave Eddie at that extremely solid hand that he's holding on to with so many different resources. Even with taking out the knockout on this Duskmane, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near enough for Bob to be able to close out this game and advance him to that 601 seed.
Bob does have 6 cards to draw Field Blower or puzzles for his Stadium. But if he doesn't draw them, then I think this game is just wrapped up as long as Eddie plays the way he needs to win. And then there's one more. No, it does not look like he hit a way to get this cornet out of the active state.
Nope. So he's going to have the energies and everything to be able to do it.
So Eddie should be able to win this next turn immediately.
Yep. All right, so Eddie's just like, oh, all right, cool. Let me just promote whatever. I've got Duskmane, 4 energy, and a Guzma. That is exactly the combination of cards that you want to see. There's a 5th energy. There it is, Duskmane, Necrozma, Mount Coronet, put 2 metals onto the Duskmane, 2 more. Guzma's going to come and drag up that Tapu Lele off the bench, and we're going to see Eddie go up to a 2-0 victory, 6-0-1 at the Charlotte Pokemon Regional Championships, as there are only 2 rounds left. Neither of these players has completely and totally secured their spot in day 2, but Eddie is just this much closer.
One thing Eddie can do if he decides he wants to, he can take that double ID. A lot of players will in that situation. A lot of players won't. But we'll have to see what he does. But he's in a good spot.
Absolutely. You know, I love being able to see these decks. You know, the metal deck was something that got a lot of attention coming out. Like, before the set was even released, everybody saw all these metal cards and said, oh my gosh, Gardevoir. Gardevoir the champion, its reign is over. Yeah. Look at all these metal cards. It's too much. But at this point, we really haven't seen much of it. But Eddie decided to say, you know what? I'm going to give it my twist. Maybe I won't go as heavy on some of the other cards that we were originally looking at. I'm still going to use Zoroark GX because, as we've all learned, this is the Zoroark trading card game.
Yes. It is a popular card and a great card indeed. One thing about the metal deck, if you look back at results at St. Louis Regionals, it was either the first or second most played deck in the tournament, and not a single one made day 2.
Right.
And so Eddie's looking to be the first, or one of the first, to make day 2 at a regional championship with this deck.
Absolutely. Now, with that and everything, guys, we do have 2 more rounds. I want you all to stay put. We should be back in hopefully next 20, 30 minutes at the most with round 8. So make sure you stick tight because there's so much more action to be able to come. The next 2 rounds, I want you to understand that we are going to be putting on players that are in the position to win and lock their spot into that top 32. Well, actually, it's not even quite a top 32.
Day 2.
Right. Lock themselves in that top 2, or that day 2 spot. Secure a chance to be able to earn that $5,000 prize pool. Get the points they need to World Championships and really make their name for themselves.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
We will be back with you guys shortly. Stay tuned for the action.